What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since 2003 and starting to get really optimistic about this Pistons team. The Detroit Pistons have 4 games left in the regular season before they head to the playoffs, which they have now clinched. So in this video, we are going to go through and talk about what to expect in the remainder of the regular season with these 4 games left. We're going to talk about if it's a big deal, whether we land in the 5th seed or the 6th seed, because both of those are still possibilities. And then towards the back half of the video, we're just going to talk about the high level thoughts on what to expect in the playoffs and the repercussions of what the results of the series will be. So first things first, we have 4 games left in the regular season. There are going to be 4 games in this upcoming week against the Sacramento Kings, the New York Knicks, the Bucks, and then the Bucks again. So as of today, there's only 2 real outcomes that could possibly happen between these last 4 games. Either we jump the Bucks and sit in the 5th seed, which would result in us playing the Indiana Pacers, or we don't jump the Bucks and we finish in the 6th seed, which would result in us playing against the New York Knicks. Of course, we have 2 games against the Bucks to finish out the year. So realistically, it's probably going to come down to those last 2 games because, of course, if we win, that means that the Bucks lost those games, makes it easier to jump them, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the biggest factor for these last 4 games is trying super hard to win out just to get the 5th seed, because I don't think that there's a ton of difference between the strength of the opponents with the Knicks and the Pacers, but we'll talk about that towards the back half of the video. What I want to see in these 4 games is the Pistons getting everybody healthy, but in a conservative way. Right now, Cade just returned after being out for a couple weeks. Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris just missed the last game. So I do think that it's important that the Pistons do have a couple brief stints, even if it's not for 48 minutes, where they are using their lineups that they expect to use in the playoffs. Of course, those lineups mostly consist of Cade, Duren, Tobias, guys who have not played together in quite a while now. So I think it is important that even if it's for short bursts of minutes, to have those main guys share the floor a little bit together and just kind of find their groove as we finish up the regular season. But at the same time, you have to toe that line because going into the playoffs with health is just as important, if not more important, than trying to build up that momentum. So it's a very, very tight rope that JB has to walk for these last 4 games. But at the end of the day, I think that health is the biggest factor here. So if Cade's cast feeling a little bit sore, or Tobias's heel is actually feeling a little bit sore, I think that it's in our best interest to play that conservatively and rather have them be 100% for the playoffs than trying to build momentum in these last couple games. But at the end of the day, if JB can find a way to find a happy medium between those 2 things, I think that's going to be the best route forward. Now, to talk about if I think it's a big deal whether we get the 5th seed or the 6th seed, if it's a big deal whether we play the Pacers or if we play the Knicks. Personally, I do not. As of today, the Knicks have a few more wins than the Pacers, but the Pacers have played a lot better basketball over the past month than the Knicks have. The Knicks have been without Jalen Brunson, and if I really had to pick between the 2, I think I'd rather see the Knicks just because they're less deep. They haven't played that well without Brunson. Brunson's coming off of an injury. They don't have the greatest defense in the world, despite having a few good defensive players. Throughout the regular season, the Pistons played the Knicks better than they played the Pacers. So if I really had to pick, I would rather see the Knicks in the 6th seed, but there's also downsides to that because if we do come out of that series, then we'll have to see the Celtics. So no matter which way you slice it or dice it, there's pros and cons, and I really am not worried one way or the either because 5th seed, 6th seed, neither of them will have home court advantage. It's not like we have to play in the play-in, so not really too worried about it no matter which way it breaks down. I think that we have just as good a shot against either of those teams to advance out of the first round. So whatever way the cookie crumbles, I'm cool with it. Not too worried. So, to talk about what to expect in the first round of the playoff series at a high level, considering we don't know who we're playing yet, I think that there's probably going to be a few moments of growing pains and a few moments of really exciting basketball. A lot of these guys on this team, Cade, Duren, Ausar, Holland, Stewart, have never played a playoff basketball game, and it can be a little bit of an adjustment period for young players, but I think that this experience is going to go a long way. I'm going to do my very best to not be really reactive or anything like that, no matter which way it goes, because right now, we are playing with house money. We are playing with house money, considering that nobody expected us to be where we're at right now. We're a year ahead of schedule at the least, and I don't really think that anything that happens in this playoffs is really indicative of this team going forward, because what have they shown us throughout the first 78 games of this regular season is enough that I think everybody should be at least pretty bought in on this team long term. So I just really am going to do my best to not overreact to what happens in the playoffs, because right now we have a very good young core, a very good culture that has created itself, and just a good base going forward. And the teams that we're going to have to come up against are much more experienced. When we're talking about the Pacers, they have guys like Pascal Siakam, who is well into his prime and is an NBA champion. And Miles Turner is in his prime and has lots of playoff experience. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. You look at the Knicks, Jalen Brunson in his prime, Karl Anthony Towns in his prime with lots of playoff experience. So whatever team we come up against, it's going to be a tough battle, considering we will not have the upper hand in the experience department. But I think that they can beat either of those teams if things go their right way. A lot of the playoffs comes down to matchups, and a lot of times, especially nowadays, it comes down to who gets hot at the right time. And I think that the Pistons are capable of coming out on top against either of those teams, but a lot of things are going to have to go their way in order to do so. Either way, biggest thing, I am incredibly excited for it. It's going to be fun. I know a lot of people probably don't feel as optimistic about this as I do, as far as the fact that even if they do lose in the first round, I'm still going to be incredibly excited because I'm able to zoom out and see the bigger picture. And I also think we can win. I don't know if everybody shares both of those same feelings as I do, but I really don't think that there's a negative way that this can go. If they get beat up in the playoffs, great experience. If they don't, which I think is possible, even better. I think that once we get to the second round, if we are so lucky to do so, things will change a lot at that point. But until then, it's just one game at a time, and we'll see how this all shakes out. Either way, I'm incredibly excited and so happy and proud of this team, and it's going to be fun. So let me know what you think. We'll catch up soon.